close to him as Wallace Muhammad. And I think that during the course of our program tonight, he'll certainly open the door for you to have an understanding as to how he feels and what his beliefs are in the Muslim movement, and also what his attitude is towards his father and those who are close to Elijah Muhammad. I might say at this point that there have been a number of charges leveled, pro and con, against Elijah Muhammad. And some of these, I presume, that during the course of the program, the son, Wallace Muhammad, will want to answer. So I'll say that it's nice to have you here, Wallace. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Rainey.
And I presume that you have a message that you want to deliver to my listeners, at least. And so I'll let you proceed at this particular time. And as we move along, I'll ask you questions. And ladies and gentlemen, a little later on in the program, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions and make comments of Wallace Muhammad.
First, I would like to thank you, Mr. Rainey, for giving us the opportunity to come on your show and express our views to the people of Philadelphia, in hope that my presence here tonight will clear up some of the confusion that is in the minds of the followers of my father here in Philadelphia, and in the minds of my supporters and the public, the Philadelphia public at large. I think it's good that I give you a little history, a little of my personal history. I'm the next to the youngest son of my father. I was taught in the private school of Muhammad's Mosque of Islam in Chicago through 12 years, through the 12th year, and I received a high school diploma from Muhammad's University of Islam. I was taught for 4 years Arabic language and Quranic teachings from Professor Jamil Diab, an Arab who was hired by my father to teach Arabic and Quranic teachings at the University of Islam. Quranic teachings as taught by Professor Jamil Diab were Orthodox Islamic teachings. And I feel that my present position, that is my separation from my father and his group, was to a great degree influenced by the Quranic teachings that I received under Professor Jamil Diab. I feel that this was a great mistake of my father in having this Orthodox Muslim come to our school, the black Muslim school, and teach the students of the University of Islam, because it enabled us to read the Holy Quran in the original language and understand the original text, and this broadened our understanding, gave us a new outlook on the world, on the Arab world, the Muslim world, and I feel that it has helped influence me to make the stand that I make today.
Why do you say that it's a mistake that your father made then?
The teachings of my father, the Islamic teachings of my father, is Farad Muhammad's brand of Islam. And this man is supposed to have been an Arab who came to, met my father in Detroit, Michigan, in 1932. And he gave my father his brand of Islam, which is not accepted by the Orthodox Muslim world. And it is far from being the true teachings of Islam. I recognize this now, and I believe many of the Muslims who follow my father now recognize
Which is far from the true teachings of Islam? Which is? Your father's belief or your belief?
My father's belief that he himself received or got from Farad Muhammad. Farad Muhammad, Wallace D. Farad, or Wallace Farad Muhammad. A year before I was sentenced to 3 years for refusing to comply with selective service order, about a year before that time, before that sentence, and the sentence was given to me in October 30th, 1961, I had began to feel that my father was making a sharp turn from the teachings and principles of Islam that he had given to us, the family, and to his followers over a period of 25 years or more. And recognizing this sharp turn from the Islamic teachings that he had given us caused me to wonder whether or not he was sincere at the start.
Whether who was sincere?
My father, whether or not my father was sincere at the start.
In other words, you're questioning your father's sincerity from the beginning of the movement?
Yes, I am. And not that what he did was bad for us. What he did might have been good for us, but I'm still questioning his sincerity. When I returned from prison on parole, 1963, January 10th,
you were in prison for what?
For refusing to comply with selective service order to report to Elgin State Hospital. My brother, on the way back to Chicago, he drove me back to Chicago. He discussed the condition of the movement, what was going on in the movement, and also my father's health with me during this drive, and he gave me a very sad picture of the movement and of my father's condition. He told me that things were far out of hand. He said things looked real bad. He said we're liable to lose everything, and he indicated that there was some misconduct on the part of my father.
What did he mean when he said you might lose everything? Lose what?
Lose everything, he meant the following. The following. He was afraid that we were going to lose the following. And when I returned to Chicago, I made it a point to get in touch with my father and to get him to permit me to visit him at his Phoenix home. I visited him, and during my visit...
You make mention of get permission to visit him. You have to get permission to visit your own father?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have to get permission. We are not the children. Even no one can visit him without permission. No one. No, sir. But he gave me permission. Not immediately. He gave excuses first. He said his health was bad and everything, and I should wait, and maybe he would come to Chicago. I felt he was giving excuses. It made me think that he didn't want to see me, but he did permit me to come out. And when I talked to him, I saw that he was not the same man that I followed and idolized during the earlier years of my life. He had deviated far from the teachings, the moral teachings, the moral principles that he once strongly advocated and defended and kept in effect with a strong hand. He wouldn't let anything get out of hand in the earlier years of my life. And this weakness kind of shook me up. It shook me up and caused me to lose much faith in my father.
What weakness do you speak of? Do you speak of anything specific?
Yes, there was sexual promiscuity that I discovered in the organization.
On his part?
On the part of the officers of the organization. And it was, he also was charged with it. And I brought these charges to him. I named the persons, and he showed an indifference to the charges and an indifference to my concerns. And it left me heartbroken. I didn't get any answers from him that satisfied me or that made me feel that I could go and give these answers to the people who were inquiring, were seeking information from me concerning these charges. I couldn't go to them in good faith and give them these answers that he was giving me. They were not good answers, and I couldn't accept them.
Are you referring to the charges of the secretaries becoming pregnant?
Yes, sir, I am.
Some of the followers of the movement in Chicago?
Yes, sir, I am.
Well, there were specific charges made by someone, I don't remember who, accusing your father. I believe I read of your father, else it was expressed over my program at some time or another, of your father being the father of some of the children of these secretaries.
Yes, and these charges, yes, sir, he has been charged with this, and I presented him with these charges, and I wanted him to give me an answer, whether these charges were true or false. And he completely ignored it.
In other words, you got neither a yes nor a no.
I didn't get a yes. That's right, exactly.
So what is your own personal feeling?
My own personal feeling is that he has lost control of
I mean relative to this. Do you think he's guilty or innocent?
I'd rather not say. I'd rather not say. But
Well, I presume that if you felt no, you'd say no. So your rather not saying is an indication as to how you feel. Because you wouldn't be reluctant to say no.
I'll leave it like that.
All right.
Now, it's not only sexual promiscuity that was turned into an outrage in the organization, and not only on the part of the top officers. This thing was being condoned by the top officers. And those officers close to the top officers were also enjoying this privilege. Yes,
now you class it as enjoyment.
An enjoyment to them. And well, I guess it is an enjoyment. Mr. Rainey, I also brought my father...
Right back to our guest now, and one of the ladies that came in with my guest tonight, she apparently is leaving, I don't know, but I guess she'll be back. But anyhow, it's all yours again, Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Rainey. Now, I would like to continue to try to clarify the reasons for my break with my father. I mentioned sexual...
You're breaking your father.
For my break with my father.
Break with him.
Break with my father.
I didn't know whether you had broke him too or not. I understand he's got quite a lot of money. So I didn't think you had broken him.
No, I haven't broke him, and I hope I won't. I mentioned sexual promiscuity on the part of the officers, top officers in the organization. Not all of the top officers, but a majority of the top officers in the organization. And along with that, there were charges of wasteful handling of funds, organization funds. And I noticed that there was an almost complete disregard for the individual welfare of the following. And I also placed these charges before my father, and he did not show real concern for the followers, for the treatment that they were receiving. So I wrote my father a letter in March of '63 telling him that if the organization was not going to make a turn and get rid of these bad people, reckless officers in the organization, either correct them and make me believe, convince me that this was going to be completely eradicated from the organization, that I would have to separate from the administration. I did not get a reply from him, and I sent him a letter telling him that I refused to any longer be associated with the administration. Later, I received the order to stay away from the Chicago mosque and to keep away from the property of the organization and not to be around the school. At that time, I was teaching Arabic in the school. So I accepted this, and I remained aloof from the organization, and I began to give advice and direction to dissident members who would come to me and with burden, almost in a state of mental shock, some of them, telling me of the charges that they have heard of, and telling me, hoping that I could tell them something that would reestablish their faith in my father. And I could not give them much to reestablish their faith with. I began to give them instructions in in the teachings of Orthodox Islam. I began to teach them from the Quran. And when my relatives heard of this, they became very bitter. They said I was trying to cause a split in the organization. They said I was envious. I wanted my father's followers, and this was the farthest they could have been from the truth. I told them, I said, if any member of the organization, any ex-member of the organization come to me seeking advice, I'm going to try to help them, because I feel that I'm partly responsible for the direction that most of the followers have taken. I'm partly responsible for recruiting these members into the organization, because for about 2 years I was minister under my father here in Philadelphia, head of the Philadelphia Mosque. And while in Chicago, I served as assistant minister, and I helped convert many of our people to my father's organization and to accept that my father was messenger of Allah. And I felt that I was responsible for them being his followers, and partly responsible for many of them being his followers, partly responsible for the direction that they were taking, and feeling that I was partly responsible made me have a feeling of obligation to them, and I answered this obligation by giving them direction that I believe is good direction. I didn't have in mind the purpose of wrecking my father, tearing him down, destroying his spiritual image, destroying his reputation. That was not my purpose, and that is not my purpose now. My purpose for coming to Philadelphia is not to destroy the spiritual image, the reputation that my father has as a strong leader of the black people. My purpose is to give instructions, good instructions, religious instructions, and other instructions to my supporters here in Philadelphia who ask for my help, who ask for my advice. And I've only answered those who have called upon me. I haven't went to a mosque of my father, approached them, demanding that they let me speak. They have denied me that opportunity. Perhaps if I had been granted the opportunity to express my views and to discuss the problems of the organization before the congregation, the Muslim congregation of Muhammad's Mosque, perhaps there wouldn't be so much bitter and shameful conflict between myself and my father and my supporters and the members of my father's mosque as it is existing now. Being the son of my father puts me in a very delicate position. It handicaps me. I cannot defend myself as one would if he were not related or tied to my father by blood. Blood ties, well, it has to be respected to a certain degree, and I recognize the respectability that should go along with blood ties, but there's also a devotion to faith, good faith. There is devotion to the dictates of conscience, and my conscience wouldn't permit me to go on and supporting with my silence, giving support to the mistreatment that was going on, that was being dealt out to the followers of my father's organization. I've been charged with being a hypocrite. This is a false charge. I've never been a hypocrite. The moment I began to suspect that something was wrong in the organization, I made my suspicion known to my father and known to my family. A hypocrite is one who hides his feelings and pretend that everything is okay, that everything is going all right. I did not do this. I never have done this, and I can't do this. I've been charged with being the father of some illegitimate children. Illegitimate children were produced by secretaries of the organization. I'm innocent of this charge. I've never charged my father. I've never charged any member of the organization with fathering these children, but I've been charged with this by the officials of the Muhammad organization, the staff at Chicago. I've also been charged with being insane. I read in the Herald Dispatch, California newspaper, local newspaper, black newspaper, that John Ali and Supreme Captain Sharif told the Herald Dispatch that I was given some drugs of unknown origin while serving time in the Federal Correctional Institution at Sandstone, Minnesota, and that I was unreliable, mentally unreliable. And this is far from being the truth. I wonder, why am I being so bitterly attacked? Why is there so much effort to make me look like I'm insane on the part of the organization? Why have I been accused of some of the worst things that anyone can be accused of? And I wonder why my father hasn't come out in the open and disassociated himself from these charges. So today, I stand alone, without any support from my family, without any support from the top officials of the organization. But I feel I have great support from the majority of the followers of my father. I feel that 2/3 of my father's followers are in sympathy with me, and I believe if they really get the understanding of what I believe in and what I'm doing, I believe that they will give me support.
Incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, of Elijah Muhammad. I said Wallace D. He doesn't want to be called that, I'm sure. It's Wallace Muhammad.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rainey. And I wish the members of my family and the official staff of my father was as considerate. They refuse to recognize me as being Wallace Muhammad anymore. And they also refuse to accept me as a Muslim anymore. And the Holy Quran, I have here, chapter 22 of the Holy Quran, it says that Allah himself, God, named the followers Muslim. This is the name given to us by God. And the Holy Quran says this name was given to the Muslims before even the revelation of the Quran. And now they deny me the opportunity or the privilege, the right of wearing the name Muslim. And I don't get upset over this. This hasn't disturbed me very much, but I wonder if they have ever given a thought to the power and authority that they are taking upon themselves to deny people who want to express their own views the right to be called Muslim just because they are not completely in accord with their thinking. And this is really one of the serious problems of the organization. The organization demands that the followers accept everything that is said without questioning anything. And if you show a desire to do a little bit of thinking on your own, then you are pointed out as a hypocrite, as a deceiver in their midst, and you are ostracized and condemned, talked about as if you were a dog. This is terrible. I always believe that the individual should be permitted the freedom to think. Even as much as we have condemned the American society, the white man society, for denying black people their rights, seems that the members of the mosque, the leaders in the mosque, would have some respect for the right to think. If we are denied the right to think, then we don't have any rights at all. And as soon as I began to do a little bit of thinking and began to reason things out for myself, they told me that I shouldn't think. They say, Wallace, you shouldn't think. If you're going to think, if your thinking is in opposition to what we are doing here at the mosque, then you shouldn't think. So, and if you're going to express your thoughts to the members or to anybody who's associated with the mosque, then you're going to get yourself in trouble. And they followed that with serious threats of violence to me, bodily harm to me, against me. And this is really what brought me out in the public. I didn't want to come out in the public and get involved in a public squabble with my father and with the organization that I was once associated with, an organization that I once defended as though I was defending my own life and defending God himself. And I defended it in good faith. I didn't want to get into a public squabble with my father and the organization. They forced me to it. They whipped a supporter of mine in Chicago who didn't do anything to them. He didn't attack the mosque. He didn't go over there trying to get converts from the mosque to support me. He was whipped, viciously beaten, and left bleeding in his hallway like a slaughtered pig, and left unconscious. And when I heard of this and heard their reasons for whipping him, that they whipped him only because he was expressing his views to some other ex-members of the organization, not members who still claim to be followers of my father, but members who were outside of the organization. And when I heard of this, I decided to go to the press and tell them what was going on as a means of checking or restraining them.
You made mention a little while ago that you felt that two-thirds of the followers of Elijah Muhammad had more or less swayed away from him. Is that your feeling?
Yes, that is my feeling.
Is it your feeling that a great number of these people are leaning in the direction that you are?
Yes, sir, I believe so. But I would say the majority are leading in the direction that I'm in. But there are many who will become so frustrated, so disappointed, until they went back into the same walks of life that my father brought them from.
Is that so?
Yes, sir, and my separation from the organization did not do this. They were doing this when I returned from prison.
Are you seeking a following?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm seeking a following. Now I'm seeking a following, but at the start, when I broke with my father, I was not interested in a following. I was only interested in giving good direction and good instructions to those who needed it. But now I am seeking a following because we have formed an organization, and we're still in the process of formulating our ideas and principles of organization. But
what is it called?
Well, it is only called Wallace Supporters now. It is known as Wallace Supporters. This is a temporary name. But at the meeting Sunday, we have a public meeting Sunday, and the general public is invited.
Where?
Venango Ballroom, Venango Gardens, or Venango Ballroom.
Germantown Avenue, Venango.
Yes, sir. And we're going to present our views, our religious views, our views on the race issues. We're going to present these and make them clear and let the public know that our position now is more in accord with Orthodox Islam and more in accord with the struggle for freedom of our people in America as a majority, and not in accord with the views that we once held as followers of my father.
There's been a split where the Muslim movement is concerned that to me appears to be more than a two-way split. An attack was made and a reason was given that some people don't believe relative to Malcolm X, when he no longer was affiliated with the movement of your fathers. Now, what is the difference between the faction that is following you at this time and the faction of Malcolm X?
Well, there is...
Is there a difference?
There is a difference. We have formed an organization that is opposed to advocating violence, are contributing to reckless violence on the part of our race. And we intend to work hard to keep from getting any image, acquiring an image that could be taken as a violent or radical image.
In other words, you're opposed to violence of any sort? Are you saying that?
No, we're not pacifists, nonviolent. We're not advocates of nonviolence, but we are opposed to encouraging violence.
In other words, you're opposed to being the instigator?
Yes, sir, we are.
But do you still hold to the philosophy not to turn the other cheek?
We certainly believe in that. That's the teachings of the Quran.
You believe in defending yourself, in other words?
That's right, but with respect for the law and with some sound reasoning, and a bit of sound reasoning before making such decisions.
Does that differ from the attitude of Malcolm X?
It is not in agreement with the image he has.
The image that he has, or the image that he had? Doesn't he have a different image today since his many trips to Egypt and Africa from what he had, let's say, 12 months ago?
He's not associated now with racism. He has separated, he's abandoned that position, the racist position, but Malcolm still has the violent image. And
well, I got the impression from listening to him here and elsewhere that in speaking about, for instance, he made some sort of statement relative to Negroes preparing themselves with rifles or guns and having gun clubs or something of that sort, But in questioning him on it, he made it rather clear to me that the only reason he wanted the Negro to have a gun was for him to protect himself when somebody else shot at him. But that he was not in sympathy with the Negro being the instigator or the one who would shoot.
Now, I've had several discussions with Malcolm myself, and I consider him a personal friend. And when I talk to Malcolm, he gives me the same impression, that he's not encouraging violence, and that he's only advocating self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in agreement with this, still with respect for the law. But I said that I believe I said this image, not the. I don't want it to be taken that I am saying that Malcolm is guilty of making this image for himself. But Malcolm, I believe Malcolm has carelessly allowed himself to be given this image.
Mm-hmm. Is it your feeling that Malcolm is more or less the best-known person in the Muslim movement of anyone in the United States?
He is. He is. Malcolm, and I believe that Malcolm has attracted more attention to the organization, the Black Muslim organization, than any one man in the organization, the history of the organization.
Did you read the article that was written about Malcolm in the Saturday Evening Post week before last?
Yes, I did.
What did you think about it?
It was a very touching story, and after reading that story, Malcolm has told me many things about his early history, of his life, and it's very touching, and it's really it really shows the picture, explains the problems of the majority of the Negroes, black people. We've been mistreated, and we've been exposed to violence, cruelty, we've been rejected, and all these things contribute to our attitude, our present attitude. So really I don't think any of us are responsible directly, solely responsible for our feelings and for our brute views and for our rebellious attitude that we have today.
Now you, in a recent interview, you made a statement relative to a certain number of Philadelphians being beaten by what you called a goon squad. At least that's what you were quoted as having said. Is that a correct quotation?
Yes, it is.
With that being a correct quotation, can you tell me why the Muslims would feel, regardless of what faction it might be, why they would have to have people act as goons? I think that the average person who's listening knows what a goon is, what the interpretation or the definition of a goon is. It's a person who is usually either engaged, either for no pay or for pay, to viciously attack others physically. Is there a reason for such in any faction?
Yes, they feel that there's a reason, for there's a need.
Who feels?
The organization, the top leaders in the organization at Chicago headquarters.
In other words, you're speaking of your father's organization.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They feel that there's a need for such goon squads. They are desperate. They feel that anyone who separates from the organization and expresses his views that differ from the views of Mr. Elijah Muhammad, my father, that he presents a terrible threat to the organization. And they get very desperate.
Be beaten?
They feel he should be beaten, yes, sir.
Your father, yourself, Malcolm X, and the followers of the three, do you think that that's good for the Muslim movement as a whole? Don't you feel that weakens it?
Yes, I feel that it weakens the Black Muslim organization, but I don't believe it will weaken the Muslim as a whole in this country.
Now you make mention, you use the words Black Muslim just then, and I've heard very frequently from I don't know exactly who, I think Malcolm for one, that there is no such thing officially as Black Muslims. That you're Muslims. Now, which is correct?
Muslim is correct.
You're not Black Muslims.
But the organization, my father's organization is known as Black Muslims. So I only
but not because he's given
not because, but I believe
that's a name that's been given to them more or less by the whites, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. My father, he doesn't accept the be called black Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he doesn't strongly object to it either.
I see. Do you?
No, sir, I don't strongly object to it. Black Muslim, Negro Muslim,
I've never heard
whatever
the expression
Afro-American
I've
Muslim.
never heard of Negro Muslim.
I haven't heard of it either, but if they use any of these,
you wouldn't object.
I wouldn't object to it.
I see. Well, of course, Malcolm's attitude towards, and your father's too, I believe, towards whites has been more or less on the unfriendly side, shall I say. Malcolm, on the other hand, since his trips to Africa and Egypt, has changed his thinking along that line. And he's told me on several occasions, both on the program and off the program, that his thinking has changed to the degree that he says he realizes that there are many things that have been done that have been helpful to the black people in the world by whites. And that while at one time he was ill-advised and he hated all white people, that he no longer takes that position. Have you heard him say that?
Yes, I have. I have a letter here. I believe I have it. And maybe it would be
From him?
Public interest. Yes, sir, it is from Malcolm.
Dated when?
This is a letter from Malcolm dated April 6th.
Well, all right. Is it long?
1964.
Is it long?
No, it is long, but
Well,
maybe I could read the paragraph.
Well, let's get to some of it after we get back on the air, because at this
Yes, sir.
point, then I won't have to cut you short on it, because at this time we'll bring the people, son of Elijah Muhammad. And the typical letter there that you were
Yes,
going to
sir.
read.
I have a letter here, Mr. Rainey, from Malcolm X to me, dated April 6, 1964. And if it's permissible, I would like to read the entire letter. That Mr. Wallace D. Muhammad, 7914 South Wabash.
Excuse me a minute just to say, in another 5 or 10 minutes, folks, we'll give you an opportunity to ask Wallace Muhammad questions, if you'd like, by dialing Trinity 81023 or 24. So get your questions together or your comments and dial us when I give you the word at Trinity 81023 or 24.
It reads, Assalamu Alaikum, in the name of Allah, the omnipotent, the omnipresent, supreme being, whom we thank for his last servant, Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Dear Brother Wallace, please forgive me for taking so long to write you. I have been keeping a hectic pace during recent days, trying to build a house that will stand against the storm that looms on the horizon. A storm that I believe will make all the present houses collapse, because the foundation that they have been resting on has become very weak itself. I want to apologize to you for not seeing the real depth of what you were trying to tell me a year ago, Savior's Day, and Savior's Day is 26th of February. That's convention time for the Muslim organization of our father. I want to, pardon me, I want to go back here. I want to apologize to you for not seeing the real depth of what you were trying to tell me a year ago, Savior's Day. Everything you said then has come true. The course of action that I have taken today in establishing Muslim Mosques Incorporated is the same action you wanted to take a year ago, and I advised you against it. I must confess that you had a deeper insight and than I, and much more foresightedness. I would like to comment here. Malcolm, he always gives my father and myself more credit than we deserve for his own decisions. Malcolm is a man who makes his own decisions, I believe. When you expose the real, continuing this letter, when you expose the real root cause of the problem to me last November, and then showed me wherein that root had no intention of changing, and he's referring to my father here, that I told him of the condition, the misconduct on the part of the officials in the mosque, and I told him that I didn't think my father had any intentions of changing this. When you exposed the real root cause of the problem to me last November, and then showed me wherein that root had no intentions of changing, it was very difficult for me to take, because you were striking at the root foundation of my own faith and my own belief. I just couldn't see it then. I would like to comment again. This is a very important letter. My father and his staff calls Malcolm a hypocrite, the worst hypocrite that ever came into the organization. I believe that anyone can see from the reading of this letter that Malcolm was no hypocrite. He had strong faith. He had strong faith in my father. It continues, experience during the past 3 months has opened my eyes to everything and everyone in a way that could never have opened them had I not undergone these experiences. The messenger had no follower more faithful to him than I, and no one who would defend him more diligently or more blindly than I. Just remember how I did defend him in all of my conversations with you, despite the heavy evidence you were unloading upon me. I admire you. You had to be a person who puts right even before blood. In order for you to give me the analysis of the problem and its roots in the way that you did, putting the blame exactly where it belongs, even though you knew that by doing so you would jeopardize your own personal welfare and future. Now that my own eyes are open and my sight is strong, I have even deeper respect and admiration for you. I have started the Muslim Mosque and cooperated here in Harlem. We are still Muslims, but I am going to try and steer the believers by degrees into the way Islam is practiced in the Muslim world. And he's referring here to Orthodox Islam. It continues, if it pleases Allah, I am going to make the Hajj next week myself. I want to keep this secret until after I leave. In this new mosque, we will be Muslims, but we will confine our religious teachings and practices to the mosque. Then we will work with all other people and groups in the community to remove political, economical, and social evils that afflict our community by spreading the gospel of black nationalism. Islam runs into a closed door, so we will take the same message and call it black nationalism, and build an active program that everyone in the community can participate in regardless of their religion or lack of religion. If you feel there is any way you can fit into this program, please let me know. I would like your help. I have deep respect for you. In fact, the idea I'm trying to carry is actually your idea. The one you described to me a year ago as the only solution around the disgraced situation that the nation was headed into. I would like to make it plain here that the nation is still my father's organization, the Muslim organization of my father. The original name was Nation of Islam. The letter continues, if you want to be the spiritual head of the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, we will submit to you as faithfully as we submitted to your father. And I refuse this offer by Malcolm, Mr. Rainey, because I feel that my father's followers have submitted too faithfully to him, and they have permitted themselves to become spiritually enslaved, spiritual slaves, without the ability to think for themselves. The letter continues, all of the mosques in the Nation of Islam are being split because the ministers are trying to teach hate against me. If they'd be quiet, the mosque would remain intact, but their lies are splitting the Muslims and making them take sides. Many are being put out and others are going out on their own, especially in mosques number 7, 11, and 12. Number 12 is Philadelphia. The letter continues, many Muslims are actually carrying guns to use or to protect themselves against other Muslims. Religious and spiritual values are gone. As you once said, there are those who would like to see the nation destroyed rather than see someone else get credit for making it a success. I hope to hear from you real soon. I've learned that in some cities, Chicago officials, your own family, are trying to make it appear that you are the one who is the father of all those children. And he's referring here to the illegitimate children of the secretary.
That you were the father of them?
Yes, sir. They were spreading the word that I am the father of those children. I believe I mentioned that earlier.
Are you?
If I am, it was a divine thing, and I was asleep when it happened. The letter continues, They are trying to destroy your own image simply because you would not go along with them in their wrong and because you expose their wrong to me. They will try to build their future on falsehood and use falsehood to defend themselves. But the Quran says when truth comes, falsehood vanishes, and falsehood is a forever vanishing thing. My family sends you love and greetings. Assalamu Alaikum, your brother Malcolm X. And I thank you for the opportunity to read this letter.
TR-81023 or TR-81022. What happened and from his standpoint and his thinking within the confines of the Muslim movement. Joe Rainey. Yes, raise your voice, please. You can't speak, kid. Just say what you have to say and he'll hear you. What was that? What was that? Just 1 minute. Yes, raise your voice, please. You can't speak to it. Just say what you have to say and he'll hear you. What was that? What was that? Just 1 minute. All right, now repeat, please. What's the meaning of Islam? All right.
What's the meaning of Islam? Islam is an Arabic word meaning submission, peaceful submission to the will of Allah. Peaceful submission.
That's your definition?
That's the definition of Islam.
Trinity 81023 or Trinity 81024, those are the numbers for questions or comments now of Wallace Muhammad. I'll remind you that there's a social reception in honor of Ballroom, Germantown Avenue and Venango Street on Sunday the 27th at 2 to 6 p.m. And you're invited. Now, I noticed that in your invitations here to this particular affair, is this affair open to any and everybody?
Yes, it is.
And that's a little deviation from the other policy, isn't it?
Not wholly. My father, mass meetings, and most of the mass meetings given by my father and his organization, he has permitted everyone.
Joe Rainey. This is Joe Rainey.
Rainey?
Yes?
How are you?
All right, how are you?
Mr. Scott.
All right, Mr. Scott.
Mr. Rainey?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I would like to comment, number one, on self-defense. This is a statement directly taken from the dialogue of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, of which Malcolm X is the present chairman. And this is what he says under Section 2, verbatim. Since self-preservation is the first law of nature, we assert the Afro-Americans' right of self-defense. The Constitution of the United States of America, in which Wallace Muhammad said we must obey the law, it clearly affirms the right of every American citizen to bear arms, and as Americans we will not give up a single right guaranteed under the Constitution. The history of unpunished violence against our people clearly indicates that we must be prepared to defend ourselves, or we will continue to be a defenseless people at the mercy of a ruthless and violent racist mob. So therefore, we assert in those areas where the government is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of our people, that our people are within their right to protect themselves by whatever means necessary. Early in the program, Wallace referred to Malcolm as having created, having been allowed to be given this violent image. Well, I would like to say this, Mr. Rainey, that everything that he has espoused is backed up by this same Constitution that this whole nation is supposed to abide by. So if any violent image of Malcolm has emanated from any statements he made based upon this Constitution, it's this select group of the white power structure who is misleading the public through the news media into believing this. And if Wallace agrees that Malcolm allows himself to be led into this, I think he is going along with the interpretation by the white power structure. Number two, I would like to say that since he mentioned the Holy Quran, I'll say that the Holy Quran compels everyone here in America who are Muslims or anywhere in the world who is a Muslim to take a stand on the side of those whose human rights are being violated. Because the Quran says that Allah created all of us, all of the human race. And no matter what religious persuasion we are, Islam is a religion which concerns itself with human rights of all mankind. It recognizes everyone as a part of one human family. So I would like to say that since the United States has been unsuccessful in solving this racial problem, the OAAU, Organization of Afro Unity, rejects the approach that they have as far as integration is concerned, and that human rights in this country is another section of a movement on the part of all non-white people, that is, Asians and Africans, who are trying to draw up domination of whites. There's white domination in Africa, and white domination in America, white domination in Asia. And we, the Afro-Americans in the United States, are a part of this international liberation struggle. And as Malcolm said, we plan to use every available international organization, especially the United Nations, in our struggle. So I hope that I haven't taken up too much time and I have clarified his position. And I think that by Malcolm's presence at this recent conference of the 34 African nations, which convened with hopes of establishing a United States of Africa, ultimately, so that the majority of Africans on the continent of Africa can rule their continent under African leadership and live in peace. I think that what Malcolm wants for us here in America, and what we too aspire, is that we will be able to rule for ourselves too. Now, we are dominated here by a white majority.
Not too long now. You're hitting me hard on time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, since we're dominated here by whites in this country, our problem is very severe. But I will say that I think that he is attempting to internationalize the problem so that we will be able to draw from many sources for a peaceful and permanent solution. Thank you very much for your patience, Mr. Ray.
Thank you.
I would like to.
We want to hold on a minute, please. I think Wallace wants to answer Mr. Scott. It's all right.
Yes, Mr.
I think I might suggest that you make your answers short now, because you're getting a lot of calls in here now.
Am I on the air now?
You're on the air.
I believe this is Brother Milton PX, and I know Brother Milton. He's
Milton
very
3X?
intelligent. Yes, sir.
Oh,
He's very intelligent, a good brother. And I'm sorry if I...
3X. I always knew him as Mr. Scott.
I'm sorry if I gave him the impression that I'm opposed to self-defense. I'm not opposed to self-defense. And when I said respect the law of the land, I didn't mean respect the law of the land when the law of the land is not respecting the rights of the citizens. I meant respecting the law of the land with reason. And my argument is not against sober violence, right-directed violence, violence that is justified. But my argument is this: I believe there's too much emotionalism. We have become a little bit too enthused in our struggle for rights, and this over-emotionalism on our part can cloud the real issues and can cause us to misdirect violence and to contribute to the injury or injuring our own cause. That's the only point I was trying to make, and I don't think Malcolm is guilty of being a very violent man or being guilty of reckless violence. I said he has permitted himself, I believe he has permitted himself to be given this image, this violent image. And the story in Post, Saturday Evening's Post, this story itself gives a violent image of Malcolm.
This is Joe Rainey now for the caller.
This is Robert.
Yes, Robert.
I think Wallace Muhammad and Malcolm X would make good leaders for the Negroes, because they seem like they could pull a Negro out this problem they in. Because every time a Negro most Negroes start an organization, they break up some
something come between them, corruption in there on the part. But I think Malcolm and Wallace would make good leaders for the Negro.
Thank you. Your rating? Yes, will you raise your voice, please? Who's this, Miss White?
Mrs. White.
Hello, Mrs. White.
In regards to this, I'd like to ask him in such a vocabulary that he has any other words father. It is practically all that trust.
Are you understanding her? We're not understanding you.
In regards to your test, I would like to ask him in his vocabulary.
In his vocabulary, yeah.
Does he have any other word than father?
Then what?
Than father.
Father?
And father.
Then father?
Father.
F-A-T-H-E-R?
F-A-T-H-E-R, yes, father.
Does he have any other word in his vocabulary besides father?
Father.
That's what you're asking him?
Yes.
Well, he's used a whole lot of words besides father tonight.
That's a very strong word in my vocabulary.
It is probably all yes, trust. Well, I'm certainly glad he has a father. F-A-T-H-E-R.
Yes?
Which is more than a few people of his age can say. Thank you.
You get a point.
I get a point, but it really is ridiculous.
Joe rating? Yes?
I'd like to ask a question to Mr. Wallace.
Yes? What's your name?
John.
What is your name?
John.
All right.
Now, the question that I have to ask,
All right, please continue to talk.
what difference is there between Mr. Muhammad's teaching and Mr. Wallace's teaching?
Well, they're both Muhammad. You mean Elijah and Wallace, huh?
Right. What's the basic difference?
Mm-hmm. All right, is that your question?
The basic difference between my teachings and my father's teaching, my father's teaching is Islamic teaching, but is Wallace Farad brand of Islam, and this brand of Islam teaches the story of Yaqub, a man named Yaqub, supposedly had been a black scientist who created the white race by grafting him on an island called Pelon. This is the birth of the Adamic race, the white race, as taught by Wallace Muhammad. And this is my father's teachings, and this is what contributed to the racism, or to the racist doctrine of the organization, that white people are inferior, and they are animals, they are the devil by nature, they are incapable of doing any good. And this is the teaching that is not Orthodox Islam. The Quran say that mankind is one family, that Adam, a symbolic title, not an individual whose name was Adam, but it's only a symbolic title for the first man, that man is one and all men descended from one source, and that is God, the originator.
2 minutes for each call, ladies and gentlemen, now, please. All right.
I'd like to make a comment, then ask the question.
All right.
The question is, when I first came in contact with Mr. Muhammad's movement was in 1960. It seemed to me as it was a movement of the masses. And I attended the two rallies he recently had in Philadelphia. The last rally I went to was totally different from the first because they seem to emphasize wealth instead of purpose. And I would like Wallace to comment on that. And I also went to the Muslim mosque one time. And it's true what he said about disagreeing with the teachings of Muhammad. I've been to many civil rights rallies and meetings, but that was the first time I had any fear of anything happening because I didn't agree with something that was said. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Mr. Rainey. Now, the organization has been placing more emphasis on wealth during the last 5 years of the organization, of the history of the organization. And here recently, last 2 years, it seems that the only interest of the organization is wealth, and wealth mainly from the followers and from the Negro community. And that's the real reason that I broke with the organization, because philosophical differences I could have stayed in the organization and tried to influence my father and the organization to my religious views, and I would have thought that it would have been worth it. But when I saw the extreme disregard for the welfare of the members and the money that was being taken and channeled unwisely and being used by the officers of the organization just to further their own comfort and enjoyment beyond any reason whatsoever, then I separated from the organization. So the gentleman who called is perfectly right in saying that wealth seems to be the main interest of the organization now.
Your rating? Yes?
This is right.
Yes, how are you?
All right, sir.
Is everything all right, Mr. Wright?
Everything is all right. I should like to extend my best greetings to Wallace. I guess I would be considered on the side of those who have invested and have been divested. But I do take issue with this image proposition. I feel that all of us who were regarded as black Muslims automatically they were a stigma or an image. Political differences and try to work on the outside cooperatively. I feel that we won't accomplish anything setting up splinter groups because the problem that we are involved in certainly is going to take, I would think, the majority of our people working together. And it leads me to I hope I'm misinterpreting that we're going to have an entirely new organization that maybe will have a few hundred or a few thousand people, but this will mean nothing. When we appeal to the powers to be, look at them, you know, we all profess to believe at one time the same thing. Now we can't agree on anything. So I wish that Brother Wallace would consider when we come to this image thing. I can recall when NASA, Admiral NASA, when he was trying to get liberated from the British, he had a pretty wild image. But conditions, I feel, brings about certain conditions. Conditions brings about certain reactions, and I feel that image such as Malik projects, I think it's important because a lot of people house about our president of the NAACP here, Cecil Moe, who projects a certain image that the bourgeois or the pacifists may not like. But he's respected, so this is what we want. I'm not concerned myself with love. I care whether a person loves me or not, as long as they respect me. Now, they respect me. So I hope that somewhere we can, because I am, and I should like to state here now, that I am affiliated with the organization of Malcolm's Head, and I want to see us work closely together because there's no reason why we should have this split, I feel. And certainly I will bend backwards in order to be as humane and as working as harmoniously together with he. But I will, I want to project the image to the American power structure that I'm not willing to compromise and accept, to be a nice fellow and be patted on the head. No, I don't think we should, not at this time. Now, once we've achieved the rights in which the Constitution said we're entitled to, then we'll do just like the Algerians or the Kenyans or whoever, when they got the independence, and it made a crime. They made it a crime for the Kenyans to deny the British or the squatters their rights. So once we achieve our goals, then we'll start projecting this image that he speaks of. And if I'm Muslim, he's Muslim, then I see no reason why we can't. We got to work together. We sure, or else we don't believe what we say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll let our guest answer in a moment, but in the meantime,
In answering Brother Malcolm's supporter, I know the brother, and I believe I understand his point in not giving his name, and I know his name, but I'm not going to give it over the air.
you'll ask first.
I know, yes, sir, I know the brother.
Name.
He gave his name? What was the name?
His name is Wright.
Yes,
The
sir.
last caller
I know
name
him.
was
I know him by his mosque name. He was once a follower of my father.
Aaron
No.
X. We all know who that is.
Oh, yes, sir, Aaron X. Well, I thought maybe he had a point in not saying Aaron X. Brother Aaron. Yes, sir, I know Brother Aaron. He's a very good brother. He worked with me when I was here over the mosque here in Philadelphia. And I think he wants an answer from me. He wants an answer from me. I think he's exaggerating the fear that he has of my opposition to Malcolm. And if I have really expressed any serious opposition to Malcolm while on this program, I'm sorry for it. Now, the point that I want to make is that I and myself and my supporters, we are not going to wage any...
You and yourself.
Yes, sir, myself and my supporters. I have supporters here in Philadelphia and other places. And others here. In fact, I believe Malcolm is a supporter. We are not going to wage any private war against integration, against the civil rights movement, or against any other movement in this country. Is sincerely, honestly working for the betterment of our lot. We have our own program, and I believe once Brother Aaron is acquainted with our program, I think he will see that there is a good possibility that we can work together. I've had discussions with Minister Malcolm since our break with my father's organization, and we have discussed the possibility of the two of us working in the same organization. And he has been good influence upon me, and I believe I've been good influence upon him. But we haven't reached any definite agreement. But there's still a possibility that we'll have further discussions, and I'm sure that it's not hopeless.
I got the impression from what was said by Mr. Wright that what he meant was, I don't think that he was criticizing you from the point that you've interpreted. I felt that he meant that there was strength in numbers, and that there should be some way of your movement and Malcolm's movement getting together. That was the impression I
Yes,
had.
Mr. Wright. Now, strength in numbers. I don't consider the numbers of my supporters to be the number of our kind fighting for the upliftment of our race in this country.
You don't
I consider my supporters represent a small number of the many of Negroes or black people in this country who's fighting for upliftment of our people. And by the mere fact that I have supporters who identify with me doesn't mean that we are splitting up numbers or weakening the strength of the freedom struggle. No, we all are together in the upliftment and uplifting our people.
Joe Rainey. Yes. Hello, Allie. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. I'd like to
I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, Allie, tonight because we're running,
Okay, I won't talk you to death.
All right.
I'd like to...
I always like to hear from you, too.
Yeah, and I enjoy your program because you always have these fellows on that give enlightened view, you know. The point is this, I'd like to congratulate Wallace on standing up for Orthodox Islam. I was over to that temple when it was on 41st and Lancaster when he was the minister where I heard, and I really enjoyed his speech that time, and since he came out, I enjoy hearing him speak and that he stands for the religion. I would like to say this, I hope that he emphasized the Orthodox Islamic religion, because here in the West, the Islamic view of the religion has not come to us. We had Marcus Garvey, the Moorish Americans, and also his father's movement. There seemed to be a hard point of getting across the Orthodox Islamic viewpoint. And this is what I think our people basically suffer. In fact, throughout the world, the evangelizing and bringing forth Islam to the world has ceased to be after the Muslims funnel up, messed up, and dropped the religion somewhat. And this is what I think we need to emphasize and lay away from the nationalism. Now, I'm not against nationalism altogether, but I think if we got into the religion and clean people up and straighten them up as Prophet Muhammad did in the 7th century to teach you studying science and education, and this is what led to the upliftment of the Arabs in Arabia, I think would benefit our people in this respect. And also, the fellow calling about unity. I think in this country we have probably from 50 to 80 million black people in this country, and I think the more groups we have, if they're working for the benefit of the people, the better it is. If you take Christianity, when the Catholics had it in Europe,
it really zoomed into all parts of the world when the Protestants came along and gave it new life, and it bust up in all these groups. And so we have Christianity all over the world in many parts. I think Islam in this country, if it worked from the viewpoint of many groups working for the benefit and upliftment of our people and not to rob and cheat them, I think that Islam will benefit more. And I wish to encourage him and offer him, he has all my well wishes and my salam and my prayers. And please teach the Muslims here their prayers in Arabic and teach them the Sunnah Islam so that they will get a grip on it. This is what the theme that people don't want our people to have, is the basic true view of the religion. And this, I think, is the devil's point. And I'm not speaking of any particular people, but the invisible satanic power that wages against the world is to keep away the true message that Muhammad brought when he gave us the Holy Quran to uplift us. And that's my point. Salaam Alaikum to all of you.
I didn't say that.
Muhammad to speak.
I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon?
Muhammad speak.
This is your lady on the listing post. This is not Muhammad. This is your lady on the listing post, and my guest is Wallace Muhammad.
Yes, I want to talk to the people who are talking now over the radio. I'd like to ask a question.
Well, ask your question then.
I'd like to ask a question.
Well, when are you going to ask it? Tonight?
Pardon?
When are you going to ask it? Tonight?
Yes, I want to ask him a question.
Well, ask him the question, mister. Go ahead and ask
I
him.
beg pardon. What is the meaning of the word Koran? The Koran. What does that mean? The Koran.
Quran means that which is to be read. It's an Arabic word meaning that which is to be read.
Do you understand?
Is that to be read? What does it mean? Is that to be read? What does that refer to? Does that refer to a book?
It refers to a book. The Quran is a book. It is the religious book or the
Well, then I
holy...
must ask another question.
It is the holy scriptures of the Muslims.
What does Allah mean?
Allah means...
Allah.
Allah means... Allah is an Arabic word.
What is Allah?
Listen, mister. Listen, mister, when you ask your question, will you please keep quiet long enough for the gentleman to answer you? Don't keep asking one question after another. Give him a chance to answer you. Oh, go ahead. What is
Allah is an Arabic word simply meaning God, the supreme being.
All right, do you have the answers to your questions?
Yes, quite.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Joe, lady.
Are you still taking phone calls?
Beg pardon?
Are you still taking phone calls?
Well, I must be. I hear you.
Oh, I didn't have a radio.
I have about 2 minutes, Sal. You have 2 minutes.
I would like to ask Wallace, just what is he going to preach? Is he going to preach the teachings of the Quran or Mohammedanism, or just what is his philosophy? I mean, he must know if he's going to set himself up as a leader, which way he's going. And another question I would like to ask him, in the event that they should succeed in this venture, if they would convert the whole, the majority of the world to Mohammedanism, will they again take up 4 or 5 wives, and where will they get their slaves from? Because originally they did believe in slaves. I would like to hear his comment about it.
Yes, may I comment now, Mr. Rain?
Yeah, you'll have to give him a fast answer, too. You've got about a minute and a half.
Yes. Now, he mentioned where we get 4 wives from and where we get slaves. The Bible, Solomon had hundreds of wives and hundreds of concubines, and other prophets, David, they also had many wives, the prophets of the Bible, and Muhammad also was born in a polygamous age, and therefore there was polygamy, and he himself restricted polygamy. He restricted it to 4 wives only, to each man, and the Holy Quran clearly teaches us that one wife is best for man, but polygamy is not the best for man. One wife is best, and is only permitted under certain conditions that a man can have more than one wife. And the Eastern world or Arabic world, they're getting away from polygamy. Well, there are conditions. If I'm married to a woman and she loses, this is all Arabic, Arabian society, not Muslims in other countries. They abide by the law of the country, of that country. If I have a wife and this wife loses her sanity, then I'm permitted to take on another wife. There's other conditions too, where a man is permitted to take on a second wife. But if he takes the second one, it has to be approved by the first. If he takes the third, it has to be approved by the two of them, and so on. Now, if these women consent to that, then who is he to argue whether it's right or wrong? And I think there's a lot of good in restricted polygamy in some parts of the world. It's in Africa and it's many parts of the world. And America itself is a polygamous country, but it's not recognized. It's not recognized by law, but it's a polygamous country. It's a polygamous society. Most of my friends, they've been exposed to more than one wife, and I myself, I've had two wives, and if you're going to condemn people for having more than one wife, I think you're going to have a terrible society. Not at the same time, but what is the difference? What is the difference? Not much.
Something of 1919 art. Society.